what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Hello, this is Chris from the Foot Candle Film Podcast. Are you interested in promoting your business to an online audience? Your ad could be right here. Consider advertising on the Mesh Podcast Network. Head over to themesh.tv for details.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small businesses with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, e-commerce and selling direct-to-consumer has helped the little guy. We'll share an article that recounts some small businesses that became really big by breaking the traditional distribution model. You're starting a business or you're in business and you're looking to grow. You need money. Our guest today has money. Chris Grasinger with Mountain BizWorks, a U.S. Treasury certified nonprofit community development financial institution, is our guest today to talk about the lending process for startups and small businesses. And he's agreed that our fourth caller today is going to get a $1,000 grant. Didn't know that, did you, Chris?
Interesting. That's impressive.
And we'll share our small business of the month, and we'll highlight some interesting businesses that you should be checking out. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host and director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Workforce, Productivity, and the Arts at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, how are you doing today?
Jeff, I'm doing great, and we're actually doing really well this week. As you know, I haven't talked much about my Wake Forest sports teams, but I can talk this week because we beat Duke.
Well, one of our college basketball teams can say that, and my Tar Heels cannot, at least yet. We'll get another shot at them.
But you did win this week.
We did win this week, and I believe my Tar Heels play Wake Forest.
Which means you will win next week.
Yeah, well, it's not been that kind of year for the Tar Heels, but we remain hopeful. So. Anyway, good to have you here, and looking forward to speaking with our guest, Chris. We like to start sometimes with an article that we've come across, and I threw one your way about that I saw in the New York Times in late January. It was called "They Changed the Way You Buy Your Basics" by Lawrence Ingracia, and it talks about Dollar Shave Club and how they appended Gillette and became a $200 million business. They were acquired by Unilever in 2016 for $1 billion. And they also talk about Warby Parker, which sells eyewear direct to consumers, which is now worth $1.75 billion. And it just really talks about how the small guys, through e-commerce, through connecting direct to consumers, can really level the playing field. What do you think?
I thought it was a great article, and I didn't realize the success of some of these companies. And we also talked about Harry's in this article, which I'm a satisfied customer.
Well, and I must admit that I actually started with Dollar Shave Club, and I moved to Harry's. I sort of like.
I think you're the one that got me talking about Harry's.
I sort of like their blades better.
Yeah.
So I ended
like
up
the
going with
packaging
Harry's.
and the way they do it.
So, and a couple of things that come in, some themes that come out are that there are ways that you can challenge entrenched market leaders by providing quality products at lower price, and they really have an obsession with connecting to consumers. I don't know if you went back and looked at the original Dollar Shave Club video that their owner did. It's really very funny and really helped in building their brand and making them a cool brand, and people really wanted to get involved with it. The article talks a bit about how traditional brand loyalty has been declining, and they mention a report where of the top 100 consumer brands, 90% have lost market share over the recent years. So there's some opportunities out there. But it also quotes Neil Blumenthal from one of the founders of Warby Parker, who says, "It's never been cheaper to start a business, but it's really never been harder to scale your business." So, it's sort of easy to get in through e-commerce, a lot of opportunities there, but as far as scaling your business, still can be challenges there.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how these companies have been successful, but I think you still got to have the right financing and right plan no matter what you do. Like I say, you can get in, but how you're going to grow that is still always a challenge that we've got to look at.
Any certain product categories that come to mind where there might be opportunities? I mean, I when I'm listening to the radio these days, I hear people are selling socks, people are selling underwear, direct to consumer. What's next? What's the next great big idea?
I guess anything.
Anything?
I mean, I honestly didn't think that I would be buying razors and doing these different things online. Of course, you know me, I'm a tech guy. Not. And so my kids and my wife certainly have me getting into that realm that I never would have gotten into before.
Well, I do also remember some of their early commercials where I think they were poking fun at, and I guess I'm speaking of Dollar Shave Club, where they were poking fun at some of the entrenched folks where things got to a point where if you went into your local drugstore to buy razor blades or razors, they were under lock and key, and it was just becoming incredibly inconvenient to have to go there and buy them. And they made it very easy for us to say, all right, I'm going to pay somebody once a month or every so often. They're going to show up, no fuss, no muss. I'm happy. So
it comes down to service, and like I said, convenience.
The big guys took a hit.
Yep.
So anyway. Sort of an interesting article. We recommend that you should check it out. And actually, I noticed it was excerpted from a book that came out in January called $1 Billion Brand Club. So there's a book out there by I'm looking. And I'm not seeing it. But the name of the book is $1 Billion Brand Club, How Dollar Shave Club, Warby Parker, and Other Disruptors Are Remaking What We Buy. And it's out in January, was out in January. I actually have downloaded it onto my Kindle, so I'll be reading it soon. But anyway.
You're so tech savvy.
Yeah, I'll teach you about the Kindle, too, as soon as we get you on Twitter, Gary. So anyway.
That's my goal for 2020.
Well, you're setting them high. We have a guest with us. I want to welcome our guest, Chris Grasinger. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. We really appreciate you being here. Chris is a regional manager for Mountain BizWorks, which, as I mentioned, is a certified community development financial institution. We're going to ask him to help us understand what those are. And he works with many local businesses in Western North Carolina, provides lending services, education services to clients, works with a lot of startups. He is also a small business owner himself in Boone, North Carolina, where he's got his own climbing and fitness center as well. So, Chris, thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur Exchange today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you and Gary.
Well, help us understand what CDFIs are, and tell us a little bit about Mountain BizWorks.
All right, a CDFI is a community development financial institution, and in its name you can get a little feel for the impact that these structures were built for. They're made to make impacts on communities, help develop communities, create community resilience. There are actually several functions and forms to CDFIs. Ours is pretty much financial development funding that is geared towards entrepreneurship support. Now, there are other CDFI functions out there in arenas that we don't operate in, such as affordable housing. That's another one of these financial functions. How many F words can I say in a row? I better slow down.
Yeah, be careful.
Okay. All right. But we operate in entrepreneurship support, and essentially we do that through financing. And we are going to finance entrepreneurs that typically don't have access to traditional means of lending. So if they go to Wells Fargo, if they go to BB&T, if they go to Bank of America, they might have a warm customer experience there at one of the retail branches, but typically there is a certain stage nowadays, and especially since 2008, where at that beginning startup all the way to 2-3 years in, maybe beyond, a traditional financial institution, a traditional bank cannot distribute funds and do a loan with a business in that stage of growth. So that's the gap we try to fill, and we're going to underwrite deals very similar to a bank, but we are paid and our organization was generated to lend to the traditionally unbankable.
And that's a good explanation of CDFIs. Tell us a little bit about Mountain BizWorks and what's your footprint, and where are you at?
Yeah, thanks so much. So we actually have 27 of the most western counties in North Carolina. Mountain BizWorks was launched about 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago in Asheville, North Carolina. And it was a small loan fund, a pool of dollars from local high net worth individuals. And this was 30 years ago in Asheville, so it was quite a different place than it is now. Downtown was not a fun place, and it was not a great place to take families. So they decided to put this revolving loan fund together to lend to entrepreneurs that wanted to start downtown brick and mortar shops. And as they began to invest in those entrepreneurs, it just so happens small businesses can make downtowns fun. And that's a key component of a downtown. So it built some traction, and over time, the source of funding changed up a little bit. It became a 501c3 nonprofit, and now we actually have technical assistance that pairs up with a lot of the funding we do. And we've spread all across Western North Carolina. My office specifically is based in Boone, and I cover about a 10-county region that includes Catawba.
Okay. And when you say technical assistance, I mean, you guys get into education, and I think you also do some crowdfunding assistance as well with some of your clients too?
Yeah.
So you dabble in several different areas.
Yep. Yes, we actually call these two elements of what we do lending and learning. So learning is actually pretty diverse once you start digging into all of our programming. Technical assistance, I like to describe it as sitting shotgun with an entrepreneur and helping them execute on whatever that goal is that's next. Then we have coaching, and you guys are both coaches. It's an element of helping folks identify goals and then holding them accountable. So it's not quite executing right next to them. And then we have a series of different classes. Many of them are cohort style, so you'll have several classes over a period of time, series. Right at the beginning, we have our foundations course, which mimics some of what small business centers provide. Ours is very focused on mission and just the entrepreneur figuring out what the driver is going to be and making sure that's going to take them all the way through the rough times and balancing that mission out with a financial projection. So in the foundations course, you're having your first cash flow projection, and that's kind of the capstone piece of the course. Then we have Alpine, which is geared towards folks that have been in business under 2 years. And then we have Scale Up, which is not always about businesses that are going to scale, as we were just talking about how difficult that is, but businesses that have been around for 2 years. They're doing over $150,000 a year in annual income, and they've identified a really good growth opportunity, or a growth opportunity they think is really good. And then Scale Up, and a lot of these courses are really about vetting what you think you want to do. It's going to work from an internal perspective as the entrepreneur, from an operational perspective, and is it going to work viably? And that's where the financial projections come in. So financials really plays in strong to a lot of our programming. And I could speak to the crowdfunding and some of the other programs. It gets a little out there. But if you want me to go deep, just let me know.
Well, when you do crowdfunding, are you focused on a particular platform, or does that work for? Are there certain businesses that you focus on that on more than others, or just anything you can share there? I suspect we could do an entire program on crowdfunding if we wanted to. So, and we're not going to today, but maybe we'll bring you back. But
so I will give you the quick and dirty in that we're going into our fourth cohort of a program we call Invested. And it talks about taking on investment of any kind. right? There's so much, even if it's one individual investing in your company to help you execute this next stage, it's a blank slate of what that investment can mean for you and your financials and everything that has to do with your business. It can make you, it can break you. It can make not much of a difference at all. So there's a new form of taking on investment, which happens to be investment crowdfunding. It's been legal for a little over 3 years now. And the last time you were allowed to take on investment and market securities to non-accredited investors was in the 1930s. So it's been a really long time. That's legal again, and there are platforms. The one that I've used most commonly is WeFunder.com. Okay. WeFunder.com mimics Kickstarter, but you are actually selling securities through WeFunder, not just to rich individuals and families, but to your community. So if you have an existing community of followers, this is a great platform for you if you want to raise capital, but you don't necessarily want to take on a loan, or you don't have the ability to take on a loan yet. It's a really incredible opportunity, and it's so fresh. We decided we were going to do an educational program for Western North Carolina, and that's the Invested course. Our next one is coming up in June, and you can find out a lot more about that at mountainbizworks.org.
Well, very cool. So you were talking about some of the challenges that a startup or small business has when they might be visiting some of the larger commercial lenders, and I think Gary and I see that as well, and that their underwriting costs can make it prohibitive for them to get involved with a smaller business that might need $20,000 or $40,000, and they look at startup businesses perhaps differently than we do. And I see you smiling there, and that often their response is, well, come back after 2 years and show me your financials, and then let's talk. And tell us a little bit about the challenges that are out there. Whether a startup or small business is working with Mountain BizWorks or other potential lenders out there. What needs to be going through their mind in terms of accessing capital these days if they're in startup or in that sort of situation.
Would you like me to contrast traditional lenders with BizWorks, or just in general what the challenges are?
I think in general, just sort of, I'm curious to how it works with BizWorks. I sort of assume that other community lenders work in a similar type fashion, in the way that you assess risk and the way you look at your opportunities.
We are going to underwrite very similar to a traditional bank. We're looking at the same ratios. Two of the top ones to learn and understand if you're interested in this is loan to value. So is our security, if this business fails, going to allow us to get our funds back, right? A lot of times you're referring to collateral when you're talking about security. So if the business assets, the equipment, the inventory, etc., the total value and resale value on those is less than the loan that we're giving them, that puts us into a risky position. But once again, Mountain BizWorks is paid to enter those situations, and we have a few ways of being creative and making it less risky for us, and thus allowing us to do those deals and start those businesses and grow those businesses. Where at a traditional institution, because you have a bad loan-to-value ratio, they're not going to be able to enter into that agreement with you.
They're going to kick them out quickly.
More
quicker than you would.
That's right. And our traditional lenders from the Wells Fargo, Bank of America, BB&T, they become some of our best referral sources because they're having these folks walk in their door with fantastic ideas, the fire's in their eyes, they're ready to go, but they don't meet those metrics that the traditional institution is going to require. The other one, just to quickly go over and maybe become more familiar with if you're listening, is debt service coverage ratio. And that's a really fancy term for, do you have enough money at the end of the month to pay your loan, And it's something we face in our household too, right? If we take on too much debt, it's hard to make those payments every month. Business is very, very similar. So your debt service coverage ratio indicates how much each month you're going to be profiting and how great that profit is when you put it over how much debt you're paying each month. So the larger the debt service coverage ratio, the better, because we know even if they have a bad month, they're going to be paying down that debt pretty easily. And those are two of the kind of boring metrics, but crucial metrics.
But important.
Boring but important. And, a lot of times when we're working with individuals, they initially come to us without a cash flow projection, or they aren't able to generate a historical financial document that shows us what their historical cash flow is, and if they have money at the end of every month and the end of every year. So that's where we really differentiate ourselves, and that's where the technical assistance starts, that's where the coaching starts, and the classes start. If we see an opportunity and we feel like this individual actually could be a loan client, we're going to really dig in and try to help them create those financial projections, work on their marketing plan, work on their operational plan. And we are blessed with relationships with the USDA, SBA, etc., that actually give us funding to make that free for the entrepreneur. So that coaching, that technical assistance to get them loan ready is very oftentimes, especially in rural areas, free to the client. So it's a really cool system that has come together over 30 years with this organization. And it's not always easy, because we do have folks come through our door that there is a major chink in the armor, or there's something really wrong with what we're seeing in their business plan or their cash flow or their historicals. Sometimes it's as simple as the entrepreneur has a bad credit score. And we work with companies like On Track. That's a really cool organization out of Asheville that helps you bring your credit score back up. We work with entrepreneurs that are in that situation to try to get them to the point where they are bankable. And we are able to work in situations where the credit score is bad, which is another thing that can really quickly end a relationship with a traditional institution where we have a little more flexibility.
Are there different types of businesses that you focus on? Or
great question.
Industry or whatever it happens to be?
Great question. We do everything under the sun.
Okay. And
we have some really interesting business models in our portfolio, some that I would be afraid to mention. But, we can't deal with some of the situations where you might imagine you wouldn't be able to bank with that industry. We don't need to get into that, but it's the typical stuff.
Very interesting. Huh? We'll do this
I think what Chris is saying is if you're doing gambling or drugs, he'd like to speak with you. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Profitable.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Nailed it. Yeah, there's other financial institutions for those kinds of businesses.
Our friend Guido helps a lot too. We had him on last month.
Great guy. So to answer your question though, there are trends in the industries we end up seeing, and it's what does well in Western North Carolina. And we have a lot of food manufacturers, food producers, restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, but it really gets a lot deeper into the portfolio. There's quite a variety, but those are some of our top industries that we have.
Geography, just made me think about it. Is it primarily within 50 miles or 100 miles radius where you guys are located?
So we actually cover 27 counties.
You heard it's 27 counties.
Yeah.
How far is that?
That's
half our state?
No, I'll tell you what.
It's a quarter.
So headquartered in Asheville.
That's why we got 100 counties.
That's right. Headquartered in Asheville, and I'm up in Boone. So I'll go up to Allegheny, Wilkes,
Okay.
Ashe County.
You said 27 counties, except that.
Yep.
Okay.
And we go deep into the Southwest as well.
And for listeners that might not be in those counties, there are probably other community lending organizations that focus on other parts of our state and in other states. It's not like you're unique in that manner. You're one that just focuses on Western North Carolina.
Absolutely, and we're connected to a network of other CDFIs throughout the state and the southeastern United States that we often refer folks to, that we don't necessarily have the means to assist them.
How'd you pick the 27 counties? I mean, is it expansion start obviously small and then grow? Is that how it, and then you take over another county or take responsibility for it?
Yeah, great question. That's something that I can't truly answer because I've only been with the organization for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. But our mission is really geared towards the mountains.
Okay.
Hence the name Mountain BizWorks. And we've got some competencies and specialties that really play to that crowd and help us understand some of these rural communities as well as small cities like Asheville.
Yeah, I think, Chris, one of the questions that always comes up when people come into our small business center or talking about business lending and is the sort of information that they're going to have to provide to you or to any lender in terms of helping you evaluate whether it's a loan that you want to get involved with. So just, for our listeners out there, sort of help prepare them a little bit in terms of, hey, if you're coming to talk to me or you're coming to talk to any lender, here are the sort of documents that we look at and we're going to require, and just to sort of set some bar of expectations for people.
Sure. Well, we work with entrepreneurs at all stages of their path. So ideation, right? That light bulb moment, it doesn't happen for everybody. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we actually have folks come in, they have nothing prepared, they know they want to get into entrepreneurship, and they have a feeling for what they're passionate about. So from there all the way to they are crushing it, they're actually donating back to Mountain BizWorks now, and they're helping us coach other businesses coming up through startup. So it's a really wide spectrum. But when somebody is coming specifically for financing, I love to see a little bit of a financial projection if they have the ability to generate that. And working with the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College, great place to begin that process if you need a little guidance on it. When they come with a financial projection, it gives me an idea that they have a feel for the business model and that this thing is going to work from a numbers perspective. I also like to see them have a good idea of who their customer is, and that's probably the most critical thing, because you can't have a good financial projection without good revenue. And revenue comes from an understanding of who your customer is and how your product or service solves an issue for them and brings value to their lives. So a really good understanding of the customer and who you want to serve is really nice when that's brought to the table. If you have a business plan already that really comes through every element of starting and running a business, I like that a lot too, but sometimes parts of the business plan aren't necessarily useful for lending. But if I see a comprehensive business plan, 30 pages, I'm impressed because somebody obviously put a lot of time.
Just they put a lot of time in.
Right. But it doesn't always mean they're ready to go.
We personally, I try to discourage 30-page business plans because I have a hard time believing that you or I or anyone really wants to read a 30-page business plan unless it's a totally new and unique idea, business, product that isn't really out there. But if you're starting a coffee shop or something, we have a pretty good sense of what a coffee shop should look like, and there are certain elements. I think understanding your customers and the potential and developing your financials are important. But I don't need 30 pages on how I'm going to make coffee. I love coffee. I'm going to drink your coffee, but I like sausage too, but I don't want to see the process in which it's made. So, obviously those are important elements. For someone going in, this sort of information that you're going to require them is not that different from that of a traditional lender, and that I assume you're also going to ask their permission to look at their credit, their personal credit. You may well require personal income taxes if it's a new business.
Yes, absolutely.
And you mentioned collateral or these are all elements that are still. It's not like coming to you gets you out of these requirements from a lending perspective. So just understand these are standard type things that you're going to be looking for.
Yeah, we're always going to ask for the past 2 years personal tax return, and if they're an existing business, we want to see the past 2 years business tax return as well. We get really into paperwork and documentation the closer that we get to closing a loan. So it does become cumbersome, but we're very thorough with that, very similar to any other institution you're going to work with.
How long is the process from starting? Sorry.
That's actually, I was going to ask that question.
Great question. So we have a couple stages, or I should say a couple tiers. If it's under $50,000, that's probably, if the deal comes to us and is ready to go, that's going to be the least amount of time if it's under 50. And we're still going to underwrite it just the same. It's just a little faster for us. So that's probably going to take us anywhere from a month to a month and a half. And that's if the deal comes in ready to rock and roll. There are circumstances where we've gotten it done faster than that, but I like to set expectations on timing, conservatively. Now, if it's above 50,000, you're looking at more of closer to 1.5 to 2 months. And a lot of times we really are going to dig in further to certain elements of our underwriting, and we have another committee that it has to pass through once it's above 50,000. That's part of our organization. So that's the gist of it, and that can flex up or down depending on the deal.
So, as a lender, and as I said, you're also a business owner, are there recommendations that you have for, if I'm a small business or I'm starting a small business and going to be looking for some capital through a lender like yours? Are there certain things that you would suggest I be doing before I come visit you, just to have a better chance of having a successful relationship with you?
Yeah, I think it goes back to really taking a look at the financial possibility, understanding what all of the revenue, the sales, the income potential on a monthly basis, and the expenses as well, all of them, down to every last dime you're going to spend. And if that bottom line, after all is said and done, looks good, and you're projecting a nice profit once you've really thoroughly analyzed everything that's going into it, the entire business and out of the business every month. I love seeing that. So it's really cool to work on something that you love and something that you care about and feel passionate about. It's even cooler to start a business and more safe and healthy to start a business that has major profitability potential, so that income eventually can feed back into your household and make your life more rich and the lives around you. You also have to be passionate. So if I see someone that's doing a business just to start a business, it always really turns me off. I have to see some sort of passion and connection to the work and the product or service that they're providing, because that will fuel the entrepreneur to get things done at a multiple that's unlike any other. And that's really what I want to see when I meet with somebody the first time. And sometimes it takes a while to figure out what that thing is that you're passionate about. Some people come in and it's very clear that it's there, and then we just got to do the gritty work of understanding that it's going to make money.
Okay. And tell us again, if people want to find out more about Mountain BizWorks, where should they be looking?
mountainbizworks.org. And
that's biz with a Z.
That's biz with a Z. There it is. They can look there. They can give me a call or a text at 828-773-3052. And I have really been enjoying my time in Hickory. We've grown our portfolio here in Catawba County. It's been a pleasure. The entrepreneurship support systems here in the community are really starting to take off, so I look forward to spending more time in this area.
Well, we very much appreciate you joining.
Glad you're with us.
And we always like to also mention that we like to thank our friends on the Mesh, and that if you're interested in advertising on the Mesh, you should visit www.themesh.tv/advertise, or you can send an email to info@themesh.tv and get some information. So if you're trying to reach entrepreneurs, this is a good place. So give us a shout. We're happy to help you there. Chris, we always like to have our guests participate in a little bit of a fun lightning round if you're up for it. Our lightning round...
Most people survive it.
Yeah, our lightning round this month is actually sponsored by Globo Gym. If you need to lose some weight and get in shape, go to somebody else's gym. But if you're already looking good, you want to go to Globo Gym. You should check it out on the internet. So, Chris, are you ready for some quick questions?
Let's dive in.
Okay.
Gary will protect me.
Yes.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot I've ever been to was New Zealand.
Been to?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Oh, that's
wow.
Fascinated by that place.
Okay.
My daughter's in Australia as we speak.
All right. Excellent.
Your preference, Harry Potter, Star Wars, or Godfather movies?
Harry Potter.
What is your favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
Okay. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Beatles, big time.
Okay. Cake or pie?
That's a tough decision. I'm going to go with cake.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the thoughtfulness you put into this. Is it okay to wear socks with sandals?
After the age of 42.
You're not there yet, are you?
Not yet.
Okay. Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Healing.
What was it?
Healing anybody
Okay.
of any ailment.
That was a really good one. That may be the best.
I thought he would be able to sniff out poor financial projections at miles away. But
That's great.
So anyway,
You already have that power, so I just lean on you for that.
Okay. All right. Well, Chris, thank you for playing. We appreciate you being here. We always like to wind up our podcast by sharing a small business that we've run into. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to give a shout out to your business, because you have your own business in Boone. Mm-hmm. Tell people a little bit about your business and where they can find that.
Well, thank you very much for that opportunity and gift. It is Center 45 Climbing and Fitness, and we are off of Bamboo Road in Boone, North Carolina, just about an hour from downtown Hickory. We provide a climbing terrain indoors, so it's a really fun form of fitness, and we actually focus on bouldering, so you don't need to come in with really anything other than yourself and maybe some comfortable clothes to climb in. We have rental shoes, and we set different routes of different varying difficulty levels, and we also have some traditional weights and workout equipment as well, but the climbing is really our focus. Mm-hmm. We have a coffee shop right next door, and it's a really good time.
Okay.
How long have you been in the business?
We started that business in September of 2015. So we're coming up on 5 years, about 4.5 years.
That's great.
So, and if people want to check out Center 45, where can they go online and see anything? What's your website?
Absolutely. There? It's center, like the center of a target, Center 45, the numbers 4 and 5.com, center45.com.
Okay. Well,
very cool.
Good one to check out. Gary, what's your small business of the month?
My small business of the month is Barkside Pet Grooming, which is important to both of us, because the owner is Marky James, a CVCC advertising graphic design graduate, and I believe we've talked about her before, but it's worthwhile highlighting her again. because she's one of our outstanding skills students. She won a national championship with our entrepreneurship team. And when she was presenting basically her dream business that she's wanted to open since 2010. And that day has now come. She's a Burke County native, and she's lived there most of her life, except for the 4 years she was with her husband in the military. She's been grooming dogs and cats professionally for over 11 years, and it's her life's passion to have her pets feel and look beautiful while they're giving them a safe and happy grooming experience. She's got extensive training in the grooming industry from every breed, such as haircuts, and including cat handling. I'm not sure what that means, but...
No, I do cat juggling.
You would probably have a conflict with her when juggling cats, although maybe if you can comb them while they're there, you're good. But she continues to grow. She's actually added one of our CVCC students as an employee in the last month, and she says where quality and compassion start for her pets, for your pets too.
Well, good deal. Well,
it's always great when one of ours makes good.
No, we're all for that. Well, my small business of the month came to me from my friends at the AB Tech Small Business Center in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's one of their clients. It's called Black Folks Camp 2, and it was founded by Earl Hunter. And Chris, are you familiar with them?
Yes, excellent group.
Earl Hunter, who is the founder and president of Black Folks Camp 2. It's a marketing-driven business whose mission is to increase diversity in the outdoor industry by making it easier, more interesting, and more fun for black folks to go camping. The idea for Black Folks Camp 2 began when Mr. Hunter was introduced to camping for the first time in 2015 while he was serving as vice president of sales for Sylvan Sport, one of the world's most innovative outdoor industry companies. And the idea didn't really fully form until Mr. Hunter and his son went on an epic camping road trip across the United States and Canada. They traveled for 3 months, visiting 49 campgrounds in 20 states and provinces, and they saw precisely one other black family camping. So at that point, Mr. Hunter started a mission of sharing stories of camping adventures across his network of friends and family, and he became a top influencer for black folks looking to give camping a try. KOA Campgrounds was so inspired by the trip, they invited Mr. Hunter and his son to their headquarters in Montana, and he wrote an article called A Bucket List Father-Son Road Trip, which was posted on their website. He's been a keynote speaker at a Western North Carolina Outdoor Business Conference, and he's recognized for his ideas for expanding marketing efforts to be more inclusive of the African-American community. So you can check out their website at www.blackfolkscamp2, and that's TOO.com, and you can get ideas for trips, which are appropriate for people of all colors. Plus, you can purchase various merchandise to help promote Mr. Hunter's vision. And even though I'm not black and I'm not a camper, my idea of camping is sort of the Holiday Inn. It's a great concept, and it's my small business of the month. So as Joe Bob would say, you should be checking it out. If you've got a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email them to us at eexchange@themesh.tv. And if we use yours, we'll give you a prize pack for your idea. We want to thank Chris Grasinger of Mountain BizWorks and Center 45 Climbing and Fitness for joining us today. We want to thank the Mesh Podcast Network and please subscribe to our podcast by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast station of choice, platform of choice. Best wishes, and we look forward to talking with you again next month on the Entrepreneur Exchange.
Take care, and we'll see you soon. Well, we'll listen to us soon.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.